So time and again, countless events unfold in our world, and many of them seem to align in ways that echo ancient biblical prophecies. You know, one of them, which usually triggers riots, but because of the war in Gaza, it has not been noticed. This past Wednesday, some 180 Jews entered the Temple Mount and prayed there with talit, that is, with their prayer shawls. And the media speaks of the presence, actually, of 1,000 Jews in all who were up there at the Temple Mount. Before this, do you know that no more than 30 Jews were allowed to do so, and quietly, since it is under Muslim jurisdiction? By this time, they were praying out loud, and there was no riot, no opposition. A member of the Knesset, by the way, that is the parliament in Israel, who was present, spoke of tremendous change that is taking place. Prophetically speaking, I want to tell you, this is in fact a major change, because for the end time prophecies to occur or even to start, the third Jewish temple is needed. As we often mentioned in the past, Daniel the prophet, Paul, and even Jesus himself speak of its presence during the tribulation period, during Jacob's trouble. It seems that Jews are getting closer to build it, and for many, actually, as you know, they're praying every day for the building of the temple. They've been doing this for the last 2,000 years. It is something that they have in their heart. And why was the date of Wednesday, the 18th of Nisan, chosen for so many Jewish people to gather on the Temple Mount? They believed that it was on this day that Pharaoh was informed that the Israelites had escaped Egypt, making the beginning of the Exodus. It was to stamp a day of freedom. So it was an important day for them. Again, around the world, we also hear about how coalitions of countries are, as prophesied by the prophets again, are slowly forming in front of our eyes. You know, speaking of the war in Ukraine, we've been hearing about this so many times. You know that lately they caught 2 Chinese soldiers fighting alongside the Russians. They caught them with their passports and cards, different cards. The Ukrainians say that they have information that there are many more Chinese fighting in Ukraine, in the Ukrainian front. What interest do the Chinese have in Europe? Before this, they caught North Korean soldiers on the same front. These are major escalation because we have there 3 nuclear countries represented by Russia, China, and North Korea who are now present in Europe. While the prophets speak of a war between the countries aligned with the kings of the north, that is Russia, against those aligned with the Western Europe, it speaks of the presence of the kings of the east. John speaks of the kings of the rising sun joining the war of Armageddon, but the Bible does not say on which side they will be. Today we have a strong indication that they will be on Russia's side, that is the king of the north, who will lead actually the war of Gog and Magog very soon. This is what the Jews actually are expecting. We expect Armageddon, they expect the war of Gog and Magog. And seeing these things, we can also perceive the shadow of the Antichrist rising. If there's a time where he is needed in Europe, it is actually these days. And this coming Wednesday evening and to Thursday, April the 24th, the Jews around the world would celebrate Yom HaShoah, or the annual Holocaust Memorial Day, which commemorates the genocide that resulted in the death of 6 million Jews and 11 million others. Not so long, by the way. It was only 80 years ago. On this day of Yom HaShoah in Israel, at 10 a.m., sirens will sound all across the country, and a moment of silence will be observed. Buses and cars will halt on streets and highways as Israelis will step out of their vehicles and stand with their head bowed and wait until the end of the siren. But the most striking thing is that the word Shoah is one that the prophets of the Bible use to describe the suffering of the Jews in the diaspora, and especially in the end times. We have seen that it is mentioned in Ezekiel to describe the coming of the war of Gog and Magog. We read in Ezekiel 38:9, speaking of God, who is actually the leader of the coalition. God says, "You will ascend like a storm." The storm actually is the word Shoah. But another prophet is more to the point, and one who puts so much emphasis on the end time. It is the one we're getting ready to study today, the prophet Zephaniah. In his description of the 7-year tribulation time, also called the day of the Lord, Israel's last word before the coming of the Messiah, in chapter 115, the Lord speaks of the Shoah in very similar terms that it is called today. He calls it Yom HaShoah. Yom HaShoah, a day of destruction, a day of desolation. The term Shoah, when used in the scriptures, has a ring of prophecy in it and is associated with the increase of anti-Semitism before the second coming of Jesus, because the rise of anti-Semitism is another sign that he's coming very soon. And so this year, more than any other years after, since that is World War II, Yom HaShoah carries even greater weight as we witness a disturbing rise in anti-Semitism and the growing tension of nations preparing actually for war. And we remember that the Holocaust did not put an end to anti-Semitism. Only Jesus will. When he comes back, you have to expect it to rise. So let us then be in prayer, and especially this coming Thursday. And if you meet a Jewish person, let them know of the love of God for them, for the world, and also of the coming prophecies, and especially of the full salvation that we have in Jesus of Nazareth. Amen.